So we just finished filming today's Browns report, and then Cleveland went out and made a signing. So we're going to break down that move at the top of today's show, and then I'm going to throw it back and time travel back in time to me talking about DeAndre Hopkins and all the trade buzz. But Mary Kay reporting that the Browns announced the signing of linebacker Matthew Adams from the Bears, a 7th-round pick of the Colts in 2018. Matthew Adams will throw his career stats up for everyone. He's a special teamer, right? He can fill in on a pinch. He can be a nice depth linebacker. Don't look at the signing and go, the Browns are all squared away at linebacker now. No, Matthew Adams coming in. I wouldn't say he's a bubble guy to make the roster, but he's definitely not a lock or anything like that. I haven't seen the contract details. I doubt there's a lot of guaranteed money in it. He has made some spot starts here and there throughout his career, but like I said, primarily a special teamer, and that's perfectly fine. Not every signing has to be some big, glamorous home run move, but that is the news right there. Adams coming over, was with the Colts, last season with the Bears. The takeaways here, good special teamer, can provide some nice depth if you have an injury pop up, but don't look at the signing and think, hey, with this paired with Taki, I think the Browns are all set at linebacker. I'm not quite so sold on that. Would still like to see Anthony Walker come back, but he was visiting the Commanders yesterday, so we kind of know what that means. But hey, you never know. Maybe the Browns will prioritize linebacker more in the draft. That's going to do it for, not today's show, but at least this extra spliced in cold open read here. So I'm going to time travel back in time and throw it back to Matthew from like 45 minutes ago right now. Here's what we got on tap for today's show. They got the latest DeAndre Hopkins trade buzz out there with some interesting reports from Ian Raporport and Josina Anderson. Plus, a wide receiver is visiting the Browns, so we'll take a look at that. But first things first, please make sure to go ahead and subscribe. Hit that sub button if you have not already. We're 6 subs away from reaching 17,700 subs, so be one of 6 or more people to join the channel today. Let's talk about the latest DeAndre Hopkins trade buzz. Does it make sense? And probably the most important question, is it going to happen? So we've got some interesting new rumors, kind of nuggets out there. This one coming from Ian Raporport this morning, who tweeted out, as the status of Arizona Cardinals star wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins comes into focus, talks are ramping up among the interested teams, sources say. Similar to Brandon Cooks, a trade would likely mean an altered contract. So the big question I have from that tweet is, who are the interested teams? Now, it sounds like the Browns have been interested in wide receivers all off season long, so it would make sense why they would be an interested party. Plus, I remember before free agency started, just felt like all the tea leaves come out of Berea where the Browns are going to make a big splash move. Is Dalvin Tomlinson a big splash move? I don't think so. So do they have a trick up their sleeve and it's a DeAndre Hopkins trade they're going to pull off? Maybe, but maybe not, because Josina Anderson thinks not. It's my understanding that the Browns currently are not among teams attempting to trade for DeAndre Hopkins. Now, this is a good time to remind you of, this is the NFL offseason. It's smokescreen season, baby, right? Teams are going to say they're not or they are interested. It's a big game of poker. So don't see a report like this and just automatically cross out the Browns from contention, right? I remember when it was like a week ago, Adam Schefter reported the Browns are no longer in the Deshaun Watson mix. Look at us now, baby. So here are some possible suitors, in my opinion, for DeAndre Hopkins. I think the Browns are in the mix. I think the Browns at least would make sense. Whether or not they're in the mix, we'll get to in a second. The Chiefs definitely make some sense. They lost a lot of receivers in free agency. Apparently, if you ask Patriots fans, DeAndre Hopkins is already a Patriot. The Ravens are always a team interested in a wide receiver because they can never get that position down. And then the Panthers. I don't really see why or how, but Carolina, they like trading for veteran players, right? Stephon Gilmore, C.J. Henderson. Maybe you include DeAndre Hopkins. So let's first backpedal a little bit because Ian Raporport mentioned the Brandon Cooks trade. And I think that's a good baseline for if the Browns are going to trade for DeAndre Hopkins, what's it going to look like? Well, the Texans got a 5th and a 6th from Dallas. No doubt Hopkins is a step up from Brandon Cooks. So if Cooks fetches you a 5th and a 6th, and the Texans have to eat some of his salary, $6 million, maybe Hopkins goes for somewhere in the neighborhood of a 3rd-round comp pick or an early 4th-round pick, all right? So Todd Archer, to add some more context to this, covers the Dallas Cowboys, and I liked this tweet a lot because I think there'll be a similar tweet put out when DeAndre Hopkins gets traded. Brandon Cooks' contract, 2 years, $20 million, $12 million, $20 million, $12 million guaranteed. Bonus of an $8 million. Base salary in 2023, $4 million. 2024 base salary, $8 million. Void years, we'll go back to that tweet. Void years on the rest of the, for the next 2 years as well. So the point being there is that, thank you, Tex, Houston paid $6 million to Cooks, giving him $18 million guaranteed. The takeaway from this, Mark, is that don't let money be the idea that holds you up from a trade going through. We just saw the Cowboys add some void years. We saw Houston eat some of the money to get some more trade picks back, and boom, a trade went through. So when you see, now you can see DeAndre Hopkins' contract, he's got 2 years remaining, base salary of $19.4 million. That's what a team would be taking on, although I don't think a team will be paying him $19.4 million. I think the Cardinals, in a reset, would be happy to eat some of that money to get a better draft pick in return. So the point I want to make when it comes to the financial side of things here, if the Browns want DeAndre Hopkins, they can get him done. Don't be the guy in the comment section that says the Browns can't afford DeAndre Hopkins. They can't, right? The cap is a myth. The Cardinals are going to eat some money. You tack on some void years, and boom. That's how you get it done. So that is not going to hold up a trade, in my opinion. What might hold up a trade is what it would cost to get DeAndre Hopkins. That's a separate entity. Look at this trade idea I put together. Based off of the Brandon Cooks trade, maybe it's Arizona getting a 3rd and a future 5th, and the Browns get Hopkins into 6, right? That might be what pauses Andrew Berry from pulling the trigger on a trade, because he might not deem that D-Hop is worth giving up a 3rd-round pick when you already don't have a 1st, so that 3rd feels even more valuable, and he's on the wrong side of 30. He hasn't been extremely productive the last few seasons, but it is DeAndre freaking Hopkins. So let me know, would you do this trade? Type T for trade, P for pass, whatever you want. I'm just really curious what you guys have to say. So please comment down below whether or not you would do this DeAndre Hopkins trade. Now, I could see why Andrew Berry would be interested in reuniting Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, because they had a very special connection in H-Town, right? 4,700 yards, 31 touchdowns from 2017 to 2019. They were one of the best quarterback wide receiver duos in the NFL. So I could see why or how, we'll put me full screen here, on why DeAndre Hopkins could make some sense for the Browns, to say the least. At the end of the day, do I see it happening? Not necessarily, right? I haven't heard some serious buzz that the Browns are interested in trading for Hopkins. With Josina Anderson's tweet out there, feels like that sort of bodies down, or, muddles down the idea of trading for Hopkins. So is it going to happen? Gun to my head, I don't think so at this point. But we are talking about Andrew Berry, a guy who went out and traded for Amari Cooper and Deshaun Watson last year. Don't put it past him to also trade for D-Hop. All right, now I want to get to a little bit of a fun sort of intermission before we get to the second half of the show here. We had this video go out yesterday. It was all about wide receiver targets. And in the video, I said, hey, if you share this video to Twitter and tag me in the tweet, I'll give you a shout out on a future Browns report. So let's get some shout outs going, baby. Shout out to everyone who shared that video on Twitter yesterday. Ryan Chowdhury, Billy, Hayden, Steve, Charlie, Tim, Joe, the doc, Dr. Willie, Poison Pill, who I am convinced is Andrew Berry's burner account because he's got a freaky track record of predicting things. Mark Stevenson, always appreciate you interacting with me on Twitter. We got LA Fred, Tyler, Daniel, he's our resident Aussie, the land down under, a gold medal swimmer. Browns AP, Zachary, Joel, American Man, Cardiac Dogs. You guys are always helping boost my Twitter signal. Shout out to you. Browns Therapy and John Turner. Just wanted to give some love back to everyone who supports me over on Twitter as well as I try and grow my platform. So thank you so much for sharing the video and getting more eyeballs to it. Now, we got some more wide receiver talk to get to here today. Josina Anderson also tweeting out, I'm told free agent wide receiver Marquise Goodwin visited the Browns Monday and is scheduled to conclude his visit in Cleveland today. So, what does that usually mean? It means a signing very well could be happening. Not always, but it does have a good hit rate of happening when visits get done. So, we'll talk more about Marquise Goodwin in just a moment. But first, we've got a really good deal going on with our friends at Fanatics. I wanted to include everyone watching right now. Go to chatsports.com/CLE shirt. That link's in the comments and the description of today's show. Springtime pretty much starting to warm up. I didn't wear a jacket today because I'm trying to wear warm weather into existence. So if you're like me, wear this awesome Browns retro t-shirt. Links in the comments and the description. Got to use that link, though, to get a good deal over at Fanatics. Marquise Goodwin, like we just talked about, visiting the Browns yesterday and into today. 2-day visit. Probably a good chance that we'll be talking about a signing in a few hours. Now, he is entering his 10th season. The former UT Longhorn, 32 years old. Last year, he tied his career high in touchdowns with 4. He's definitely a burner. He's a track star. That's what the Browns are looking for in their wide receiver room. But when we look at Marquise Goodwin over the last 4 seasons, he had a bit of a career-saving season last year with Seattle, right? 387 yards and 4 touchdowns for a wide receiver 3. That's not necessarily glamorous, but with only 27 receptions to work with, that's not too shabby. So if not for a good season for a lower-level receiver, he might be out of the league at this point. But look at something on screen right now. 13, 14, 9, 11. The guy's not really all that available. I don't think this would be a very good signing for the Browns if they're looking to add some real speed and talent or whatever to their wide receiver room that's going to be available. Does he have speed? Sure. But how many games, right? I'm not going to nitpick if he misses 1 or 2, but 9 and 11 in the last 4 seasons, that's a bit concerning in my opinion. If this signing does happen, we're talking about a C-level signing. We're talking about someone who's 32, entering year 10, that is coming in for a bit of a competition in the wide receiver room. So let me know, is signing Goodwin enough at wide receiver, right? If the Browns sign him, do you think that sort of checks the box at wideout? Or is that not enough and there's still more to be done at that position? Type Y for yes or N for no. To me, I just think that signing Goodwin would be not an alleviation. Is that even a word? No, I don't know. It doesn't alleviate the issue, though, at wide receiver. It just provides some depth, like I said. It's another camp body / depth move right there. I don't think signing Marquise Goodwin is actually going to push the needle a whole lot at wide receiver for a guy who doesn't get over 400 yards and misses games pretty often. I don't think bringing him on is going to do a whole lot at the wide receiver position. He's going to be good for 1 or 2 really big games with that speed, but outside of that, he'll be pretty dormant for a lot of the games. So I hope that the Browns, if they do sign Goodwin, don't feel like they have done everything they need to do at wide receiver now, and they have checked everything that needs to be checked, and all the T's have been crossed and all the I's have been dotted for the offseason. Now, that's it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. And once again, shout out to every single one of you who shared yesterday's video to Twitter and tagged me on it. Thank you for helping grow this channel and getting more eyeballs on it. So appreciate you. Hit that sub button down below, and I'll see everyone later.